Well, good evening, USPCA members. So I apologize for being a couple minutes late, but this is the fun of live video. And when you allow a baby boomer to try and play around with Facebook, this is exactly what happens. So you're going to be making all the mistakes to tell you not to make when you're doing live television. So I'm going to make them all tonight, where I'm trying to watch this on my iPad off to the side, and I'm sitting here live looking at this. So I'm going to try to get everybody's questions tonight. I've got a few things to talk about. But clearly, I think the big push is to make sure everyone stays well informed. So I've asked Rob if he gets any questions that I can't see, because I'm not getting anything up on my iPad at the moment, to make sure he's texting me, and that just works. So I think we're good to go. So a few things I want to talk about tonight just to get us started. I think first and foremost is, where are we going with this as we go down the road? I think most important, we're going to start scheduling webinars, very brief, short, probably twice a week to get us started. And so next week, to get the ball rolling, I think one of everybody's favorites, Deb Cantrell, is going to join me on Friday evening at 6:30. Going to have a chance to talk about some creative ideas that Deb always has for things you can do with your business looking forward. And then Tuesday, which will be our opener. Some of you may remember a number of years ago, actually a couple years, we had a keynote speaker, Simon T. Bailey. Simon's doing some really cool new stuff now in terms of helping small businesses. He's gone from just the public speaking into live consulting. So Simon's going to join us on Tuesday, share some ideas that he's seeing in other businesses and how they're beginning to work their way through COVID-19 and what they can do. Chef Monica has agreed that she's going to work with us coming up here in the near future. So I'm hoping to get her the week after next. We get Monica on board, and we have 3 or 4 other speakers to kind of carry us through the short term. So our goal here is twofold. One is to keep you informed on what's happening out in the marketplace, what's happening in terms of the virus, what we see in terms of operating opportunities, what we see in terms of risks to the business, and what you do to mitigate those. So 2 things I want to talk about tonight, and this is something we've kind of gone over with all of you in the last 24 hours. And the first of those, we sent out a document yesterday, and I know in talking to Angela and Vince, I think we've had plenty of requests, which is a good news thing for us, for people who would like to get copies of it. But the document is one that, if your area is under a quarantine or is under a stay-at-home order, oftentimes food companies and food organizations have an opportunity to work their way through and around having to be quarantined and having to stay at home. There's actually a presidential directive, and we've noted that in the publication. Here's the important thing, is that in talking with our attorney yesterday and trying to find out how to best position this so that we wouldn't have a problem, he suggested in doing it is make sure that the chefs who are using this document, because it's one of these things you'd have in the car with you, that you could show a police officer or somebody who happened to pull you over and ask why you were out, that why you are an essential worker. Now, there's no guarantees, right? But hopefully if you're working with, say, first responders, doctors, people with immune deficiencies, the elderly, but you're in people's homes cooking that have those kinds of issues, that there's a document you can show why you are vital to them and their health and what they do. Obviously, it's not designed, if anybody is still out there doing parties and weddings and cooking lessons, we really can't do that. What we're trying to do is to make sure that the USPCA doesn't come across as either leveraging this or, more importantly, somehow scamming what's happening. So our attorney was very clear. So what we've done is, rather than just send it out to everybody, we've asked both Vince and Angela to vet this, send an email to them. I would also suggest, too, that if you're in a state with one of the quarantines, take the language from this. If you can reach your county, city, state government, whoever it is that's managing the quarantine, the stay-at-home order, have a discussion with them. Send them an email. Find out who the contact is. I will tell you, as most of you know, in my other life, I do a lot of work with the National Restaurant Association. And here in Florida, a big part of our operation grades these certification manager exams, or manager certification exams. And we made a case for why that's critical, particularly since part of our business is also the grocery business, not just restaurants, chefs. And so with the groceries now looking to expand the number of employees they have around the United States, we made the case with the county on why we had to have just a handful of people. We typically have 100 people in the office in Orlando at any one given time. We're only having 6 in there at this point, and obviously well separated, lots of cleansing going on, lots of sanitizing. So. But we made the case to the county. We used the language that we had from the document that I shared with everyone, or we're sharing with people who need it. And in fact, yesterday morning, we got the clearance from the county government here that we had the exemption and staff could work in the office. Now, not all 100 staff are going back. Like I said, it's just a half a dozen people. But it allows us to make sure that the people who are going into the food industry now can still work. So that's an important thing. In the case of those of you who do have your food manager certifications and wondering, what do I do? It's still tough because we have to have proctors. We are working on some solutions on that. But in the short run, the American National Standards Institute did give us an okay, and this is only for the National Registry of Food Safety Professionals and ServSafe, to extend the expiration dates from the start of this COVID-19 virus outbreak 60 days. So right now we're working on communication. So if you're due for renewal, when we send a renewal notice out, we'll note that you can keep that letter with you. We're getting ANSY's approval to make sure that we can put their logo on there. But that'll go out for 60 days, and we're working on getting that out to everybody now. So give us a few more days. We just got the okay yesterday. So it'll take us a few days yet to get this kind of through the process, get our marketing people to get the letter done, make sure we get all the approvals and get that out. But again, if you're on that cusp, if you're now, next couple of weeks, and you're about to expire, don't panic. We know we have to come up with proctoring solutions in the long run for the exams, but in the short run, the standards organization is working with us on the extension. So it's something you can show people if they have any questions or concerns. The other thing I worked on today, one of the many other things I worked on today, that was paying attention to the CARES Act that was just gone through Congress. I think, as everybody knows, it passed the Senate last night, and it finally did pass the House today. I don't think the president has signed it yet. I really haven't had a chance today to keep up with the news. It's been one of these days of all-day meetings, and I am so grateful it's Friday, although I still have a meeting starting at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. But let me walk through some things I think that are relevant. There's still a lot of this bill that has to flush out. I'm still waiting for some of our experts, both accounting and legal, to pour through it and get notes back to me. If there's been any changes that the House made to the final bill that was sent over to them. And then, of course, once it gets done, signed by the president, to try and speed through the implementation process to get it into the market. And I'm going to kind of walk through some things that I picked up today that are important to you. So bear with me while I read from my notes, because I didn't have a chance to memorize anything today in looking through this. But a few things that came out there. First of all, one of the big ones is the SBA loans that are out there. Typically, in a given year, SBA lends about $35 billion. But now with this new Stimulus Act, one of the things that's happening now is that there's actually $350 billion in this bill for small business. And so we're excited by the fact that we'll be able to now see if we can apply for money. So the important thing is that there's no downside to applying for an SBA loan right now. Now, we don't know what the forms are yet, and we're waiting on those. Our accounting firm is helping us flush that out. But you may want to at least start to talk to your banks, start to talk to, see if you can get a note out from SBA. We'll keep you informed on this. But again, there's no loan origination costs. There's no other costs that are typically associated with these with the SBA. What we're hearing now is it should be relatively easy to get. Typically, the amount, and bear with me here, is based on your last 12 months of payroll, and that includes yourselves if you're self-employed. And it's going to be looking at roughly 2.5 times what will be your monthly payroll. Again, still waiting to flush out details, but that's coming out of the Senate bill. The money can be used for payroll costs, health insurance, rent, utilities, and the money, if you will be forgiven, you can't pay it back without implications, but it is tied to keeping whoever you have employed, including yourself, employed. So that's an important thing to consider. And also, there's no expectation of any interest payments related to this. This is probably as close as you're ever going to get to a government grant coming out of the Small Business Administration. And remember, I'm talking through this tonight. Over the course of the next few days, as we pick up more information from our law firms in Washington and our accounting firms here in Orlando, I'm going to put a document together for everybody so you can make sure that you can see what it is that we have and what it is that are the best things you can do. If we get copies of forms, anything that we get, we'll push it out to you to help you with that. I'd also encourage you as you do this to make sure you're talking to your accountant. Ask your accountant for help, because I'm sure there's things that they can do. They're on top of this as well. But we'll certainly do everything we can to make sure that you get what you need to know to make sure you get this done. I apologize because I'm reading as I'm talking. Make sure that you, again, act on the application. Start looking into that now. I understand talking to our accountants this afternoon that the application form itself, they think is going to be the form that's typically used, but they're not certain. But again, the sooner you start working on this, the quicker you can get in. It's $350 billion. So if you need that for your business, now's the time to take a look at it. Interestingly, in the past with SBA loans, there were collateral requirements. A lot of that they required in the past is going to be going by the wayside to move these through the process faster. So as we noted today in the call that I was on, SBA is treating these differently in the past because of this particular crisis, and we don't know what's to come. So typically when SBA loans were done in the past when they were crisis related, it was because the government saw what had already happened, say a hurricane or tornadoes, and businesses needed that lift. They could assess the damage. We're in a situation now where we don't know what the damage is. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't know what the next day is going to be. So the idea behind this CARES Act and supporting the SBA is that it'll speed this process up faster. So there's an anticipation of what it could be. So like I said, the initial piece is 2.5 times your monthly payroll, and we're still getting a piece of the understanding of that. But this is early. Like I said, just passed the House. The president hasn't signed it, though the expectation is that he will. And we'll continue to watch that and see what's going on. So bear with me while I read a little bit more here, because there's a few more pieces of this I know that were important that I highlighted. So the bill also authorized $10 billion to provide emergency grants up to $10,000 for eligible small businesses under the SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loans Program. Grant funds may be used to provide paid sick leave to employees, maintain payroll, meet increased costs to obtain materials, make rent or mortgage payments, and repay obligations that cannot be met due to revenue losses. So we'll continue to pick up more on those EIDL loan or EIDL applications, but recognize that's in addition to the $350 billion that the SBA is going to have to actually do as loans. There's also, for those who have employees, we know a number of our chefs do have employees. There's employee retention credit. In this case, the CARES Act provides a refundable payroll tax credit worth 50% of an employee's wages paid during the COVID-19 emergency, and we still don't have the time frame on the emergency. The credit is available to employers whose operations were fully or partially suspended due to the COVID-19 related shutdown order, or gross receipts declined by more than 50% when compared to the same quarter in the prior year. So something else we'll watch for there. Again, for employers in our group, the bill allows employers and self-employed individuals to defer payment of the employer's share of the Social Security tax they otherwise are responsible for paying to the federal government with respect to their employees. And again, that's also about the self-employed. So if you're thinking about that Social Security tax, you have an opportunity to defer it. And instead, there'll be deferred employment tax will be paid over the following 2 years. So if it's deferred for 2020, you're safe until 21-22, and it'll be deferred over that period of time. This I know we had some questions about as well, and that was unemployment insurance expansion. And I'm just going to read this to you to make it a little bit easier. The legislation expands access to federal unemployment benefits through the creation of a temporary pandemic unemployment assistance program. The program will provide payment to those not traditionally eligible for unemployment benefits. In other words, those who are self-employed, independent contractors, or with limited work history. So I think it really defines a lot of our members. And they are unable to work as a direct result of the coronavirus public health emergency. And benefits are available for those who are unemployed, partially unemployed, or unable to work. The bill further provides an additional $600 per week, in unemployment benefits on top of benefits available under any other federal or state program for 4 months. So I think that's the most critical things that we were able to find early on in the bill as it pertains to our members. Again, I don't want people to worry too much about having to hear what I said. I just want to kind of cover that verbally, because we will, again, once we get more definitive information from our attorneys, we get more definitive information from our accountants, we'll put a list of those things together and make sure we get them out to you so you have everything you need to really run your businesses and do well. So I think that's, let me just check questions here real quick. I was going to keep it relatively brief tonight. It's Friday night. If everybody's had either a crazy week like I have or you haven't, I think everybody's ready for Friday. I know we had a couple of questions, and so I'm going to hopefully find my questions page. And Robert's going to shoot me if I can. He's not here with me tonight. as I said, everything they tell you not to do on television, I'm doing. So be prepared. So a few of the questions that did come in advance. And again, if I miss them, I'll work with Rob to make sure we capture them. And once we capture them, if I have to, I'll answer each one individually like we always do. So we'll stay on top of that. So Becca Williams asked, he said, it sounds as though many personal chefs are preparing in-home and delivery during this time. I know this is typically not allowed or legal, but are there exceptions right now? I think this would be safer than going into multiple clients' homes, but don't know how to move forward. Right now, she's sheltering at home in Dallas until April 3rd and not working, but I can't imagine not getting back to work after that. I'm trying to think of solutions and compromises. So, Becca, that's a great question. We still discourage, for a host of reasons, cooking from home because it's not so much about the COVID-19 virus as it is other health-related risks in driving food safety-related concerns, time temperature management, cross-contamination, things that aren't intentional but could happen moving from a person's home into a private residence. So I was talking with one of our chefs yesterday, and we were talking about this because obviously we have this form that we put out. I think the important thing to consider is good dialogue. And we pushed out a piece. If you didn't see it, Beck, I'll be happy to send it again. It's the latest we have from the CDC in terms of what the COVID-19 virus symptoms look like. I think it's worth having a very active conversation with your clients ahead of time. Really talking to them about how they feel, where they've been, travel history, access to other people. You've got to have a comfort level that those folks genuinely are healthy before you even begin to have a discussion about whether they're going to do business. If you have that comfort level, then you have to set some ground rules. First and foremost, when you go over, if you're even the least bit concerned, if you can find a mask, have it for them. We've been suggesting, and I'm not going to change that suggestion, that if you don't have COVID-19, the mask does you no good. It can't protect you from getting it. You can get the virus airborne in your eyes. It can slip behind the masks. But it does protect people who have COVID-19 from transmitting it because it holds everything in. So if it gives you a comfort zone, if you think that they're breathing something that you just have a little bit of concern, then and you can get the masks, which is the hard part, but if you can get the masks, and I haven't even started trying to source that yet, but if you can get the masks, then it is something of value. But set some ground rules. If you're going to be cooking at someone's house, they can't be in the kitchen. No family member, nobody. The kitchen is your domain, and they are to stay out. When you get to the house, they are always to maintain a minimum of a 6-foot distance from you. And I know this is unfriendly. This is not what Personal Chef's all about, but at the end of the day, it's a different time. Bring your sanitizing wipes with you. Everything you touch should be sanitized. And remember, as long as they're not coughing or sneezing and they're not transmitting, unless they're completely asymptomatic, but as long as they're 6 feet away and they're not they're not reaching you, you should be okay. Then wipe down everything from doorknobs, anything you're touching, wipe it down. If you can't get sanitizing wipes, if you can't find Lysol, if you can't find a cleaner, CDC's recommended 1 quart of bleach to 4 teaspoons of water. Put it in a spray bottle and bring it with you. I tease someone, try not to spray it on any of their color fast material that's going to turn around and end up with an insurance claim with us because you ruined their best towels. But that aside, make sure that you're spraying it down. Get into the kitchen, everything you spray it down before you start. Do all your work, clean it up, spray it down when you're other, and spray your way out the door. Wear gloves as often as you can while you're preparing, but wash your hands frequently and do not touch your face under any circumstances. If you need to, wash it more frequently while you're cooking. If you're at all concerned that you've touched something and you just don't remember, wash your hands. So I've been saying this a lot since this all started. I'm going to keep repeating it, but it's one of the best things you can do to keep yourself safe. Back your way out of the house, sanitizing. If you're going to serve the dinner, serve it to them, let them sit down after you served, clean up, get out. If you're packaging and doing meal prep, package, clean up, get out. And hopefully that'll make you feel a little bit safer. So we'd like to think you could do that. And then Beck, I think that notwithstanding, that's why we're saying the idea of doing the home delivery has risks outside of, we're talking about with COVID-19. Unless you're working out of a commercial kitchen is a different animal. I think this is one option. And of course, make sure the whole idea is you're not alone in this. The whole idea behind the CARES Act is business continuity. So we'll continue to keep you pumped up with that information as well to try and help. So, and of course, always check with your other members. Watch the Facebook group. I know our members are sharing ideas. I'm talking to our speakers. I know Deb so well. She'll bring some information. I know Chef Monica Thomas will bring information. I know Simon will bring information from outside. So things to look at. We had another question from Kathy Harlan. Says, as personal chefs, are we eligible for unemployment benefits due to COVID-19? I stopped working 2 weeks ago and my county told us to shelter in place. So Kathy, I think two things. One, if it's possible to get out of shelter in place, I'm getting questions here. Okay, the promotions for water. Kathy, I'll get back to you in a second. So someone just asked, what can we do for the solution for sanitizer? 1 quart of water to 4 tablespoons of bleach. 1 quart water, 4 tablespoons of bleach, put in a spray bottle, and it's as good as anything else. And that came from CDC. That's not me making it up. So it's a CDC recommendation. So hopefully that helps everybody to use that. So Kathy was getting ready to go down to check with Vince or check with Angela, that document. If you don't think that's enough to get you past law enforcement where you're located, one of the options is certainly to call and see if the presidential order that talks about food as a vital source is enough to be able to get you a personal exemption. Like I said, we did it for the National Restaurant Association, and I was not representing the big National Restaurant Association. We were very local in our discussion about that. So give it a try. And of course, when it comes to unemployment, I just talked about that a moment ago. I'm trying to keep up with the questions as they come through here. Beadham, you're welcome. So I apologize for staring at the screen. Normally I have help with this. And so the other option is obviously unemployment benefits, which everything coming out of the new CARES Act is telling us is something that's going to be available to you. Again, let us package all this up and get it out to you as fast as we possibly can. President hasn't signed it yet. I want to make sure we've vetted it with professionals. Lawyers are good at looking at this stuff better than me sometimes, and certainly accountants as well. So we're going to look at it both from the mathematical perspective, the accounting perspective, as well as the legal, and get everything together for you. Another question we have, a little bit longer one here from Ruth. Says, I'm in Washington State and noticed that personal chefs are not on the list of essential businesses. Here we go. Listed by our governor for our stay-at-home period. I learned that there is a form people can submit to the governor's office to clarify whether one's business is essential and to request it to be added to the list of essential businesses. Have we seen the list? I haven't. Do you know of the list of members who have already done or submitted the form? I don't. Any thoughts? So the good news is I have thoughts, and I've been sharing them. So again, I would suggest go ahead and reach out to Angela or Vince. Again, if you don't think the form is enough to get you through traffic, take the information from the form, and then submit it to the state. So if you can get that from your governor's office, fill it out. I think you have enough information on there that you can use to work on getting the exemption. Chase them out and chase them down and make sure that you're getting that. So again, use that form, whether you use the form to try and get to work or use the form to pull information from it to work on getting what you need to be able to continue working by getting an exemption, then go for that. The question goes on, says, I personally can't decide if I want to be allowed to work or not. Some clients are putting things on hold until May and a couple scheduled in April who want me to cook. Probably everyone's in the same boat. I think everyone is in the same boat. And that's why I was suggesting a moment ago, the extra caution if you're going to go in someone's house. Don't be surprised, by the way, if they ask you too about where you've been, what you're doing about cooking, what you're doing about your own personal travel. So you need to be in a position to be able to share with the people that you're cooking for where you've been and your health matters. So it's definitely something that goes both ways. And I would ask you to be open to working with your customers, but ask solid questions. Take every precaution you possibly can. And I would even say once you leave the house, wash your clothes, thoroughly wash your clothes. If you have a sanitation selection on your washer and dryer, use your sanitation selection. You can't be careful enough. And after you get out of the clothes, wash. So I'm going to emphasize that a lot. And then it ends up with, I would be happy to submit the form, but I don't want to blow it for anybody else. So I thought it'd be good for us to see it, or USPCA language. So Ruth, I'm really hoping this helps. I'm going to answer by email just in case you're not on tonight. So I will send you an email. I am fully confident that the information that we sent out last night will help you with the form. But I saw that you sent me a link, so I'll take a look at that as well and be able to respond back to you and get that out. So hopefully that's going to help you get where we need to go. So, for tonight, I think that answers the questions I have. I've kind of watched here on the screen. I will apologize to everyone whose questions I missed because they're over on Facebook. The baby boomer in me couldn't quite get it to work the way I wanted to on my iPad. So I thought I'd been pretty darn good for what I do for my age. But that said, we will continue this. We are by your side. This is what a professional association is all about. We will definitely be out there. We're going to be researching everything we can. Okay, Chef Edom just sent a question. Can you give us some insight regarding not wanting or being comfortable going into someone's home, but oh crap, and it says see more, and I can't do that. Let me try it. Oh, there we go. But they still need your service. Edom, it's a great question. If you're not comfortable, you shouldn't do it. But I would suggest if there's an option here for you, is it possible that you might be able to perhaps offer them instructions, send something written? There's still a charge for it, but perhaps it's not the full charge of a meal. I would say if you're not comfortable, have a discussion on what you both would be comfortable with. So don't let it go at no. To me, there's no such thing as no. It's just not now, which might mean a different approach to what you're trying to do. So if you go through all those processes and you still don't feel like, I just don't feel good about going in that home, that's worth the call. Hopefully people are receptive to that. I think this is a very different time, and taking a look at that separate time means that they'll be able to think about it themselves as well. But approach it differently. Approach it with an open mind. Approach it with options. If you decide you want to make a couple of those options free as goodwill, go right ahead. But don't forget to think about pricing options for it as well. You're in business, and that's something that you should make sure that people understand. And I think people are very sensitive to the fact that they can still afford the personal chef services that I think they would want to support your business. I'm hoping that helps a little bit. Anisha just sent a little note. It says maybe you can only offer grocery delivery and recipes, and there's an option as well. So good point. If you can do a grocery pickup and then turn around and drop it off with some recipes, and they are yours, and you've done the shopping and it's healthy and you're comfortable going to the grocery store, that's an option for you too. So again, Anisha, thank you. That's a really good idea, and I really appreciate that. So Chef, I'm glad we're able to get some of those questions answered. I think that, so again, as I'm saying a moment ago, this is what the association's all about. We're going to continue to be here for you. We are researching things every day. I am up early in the morning reading through CDC, FDA, WHO reports just to see if there's anything out there that's giving me any indication. There's a couple of sites with lots of statistics on them I'm looking at every day to see if I can find trend lines. When I actually have 5 minutes, I'm trying to watch on television to see if I'm picking up anything there. So, and everything we get, we're going to continue to share with you as we get it. We've had some great outreach from our own members themselves. Hopefully everybody got the email from me earlier today from Chef Kat Ritchie in San Antonio, who's now working with Halperins with an offer for some of our members. So again, everybody's in this together, guys. We're all trying to make it work. When we start this next week with Simon, it's going to be a little less confusing for me, not having to look at 15 different screens. We're going to move to a Zoom webinar. So if everybody's not heard about Zoom, the instructions will come out in the email invitation to everybody to participate. It gives us a lot more freedom to work. And actually, Simon and I, Deb and I, Monica, all the rest, we can share a screen at the same time. So you get to see both of us live and in person. We can accommodate at the outset up to 100 people. We'll watch the number of participants. If we need to make that grow, we will. So we want to approach this holistically. We want to approach this from business opportunities, business rethinking, what the future looks like, what the current state of the environment is, what are the options out there for you as a business in terms of both new business opportunities, old business opportunities, and then the support that's coming out of the federal government that you can leverage and take advantage of. So lots still to come. Anisha, thank you. I agree. Zoom is wonderful. Believe me, I've been on Zoom meetings from dawn till dusk every day this week. So I'm kind of happy it's Friday, although I do have one tomorrow morning at 8. But that's okay. I can live with it. So that said, we're going to be here for the next, until this is done, and then we'll be here beyond. I think the good thing about this for USPCA is it's given me some guidance in terms of effective ways of reaching our members and doing some things that are new and creative. So watch for us, and we'll keep it out there. So for tonight, I think the thing I want to wish you is watch for what we send out there on everything we're doing with and everything the government's doing with the CARES Act. We'll summarize that. We'll get the news out to you. If there's forms, we'll get the forms out there. And then keep watching, guys, and keep watching your email, keep watching Facebook, keep watching our social channels. Stay tuned for the webinar series starting next week, and we're going to keep this rolling and rolling. We're in this together. We're going to get on the other side of it together. So, again, my thanks to all of you. And again, I really appreciate the wonderful notes from our members. I said this many times. I've been involved with trade and professional associations since 1981. And I've said this to many people, and I mean it with the most sincerity. I have never seen an organization and a group of people more generous and more caring than Personal Chefs. And you are all to pat yourselves on the back because you've just done a wonderful job. So, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful Friday night. Thank you all again, and stay tuned. More to come. Have a great weekend. Take care.